Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to break down the Orioles 2025 draft class as the Orioles completed the draft on Monday, concluding with round 20. And we're going to look at what is a pretty interesting class. The Orioles take 11 pitchers and a very heavy emphasis on the junior college ranks in the middle rounds of this draft this year. That is something we've been seeing in the last few classes. But we'll talk a little bit more about what that means on tonight's episode. And we're also going to look at some of the top players to come out of this class. Nick, I want to start with you because you were tweeting along all day over on our X. You've been following the draft closely this year. How do you feel about this group of players?
I feel fantastic about this group. The first, last night when we were on, obviously none of my feelings have changed about any of those picks. I think I like the Ike Irish pick a little bit more, maybe even realizing the value that you're getting here. And then as soon as we sign off, and I said, if you were hoping for pitching, as soon as we sign off, you're about to have some fun. And they immediately went two pitchers back to back as soon as we logged off. But so they went pitching early. Some fun college, little fun college flyer there in RJ Austin to close out night one. But I think you saw at the top of the draft, through the first 4 rounds specifically, you saw a lot of college just firepower coming into the system. That's going to really rejuvenate this farm system. And then as we're going to talk about these players individually, you're shooting for high upside projectable arms in the JUCO ranks. We can talk about that shift, that change there. You're talking about guys who have, again, on the pitching side, it's still a lot of guys with loud stuff, but they're projectable. You tighten up a few things here and there, you're going to unlock some things. They're going to become legitimate starting pitching prospects. I don't know. I think we also just, do we see a switch as well? Have we seen a philosophical switch? Because every hitter, on the pitching side, I feel like it's a lot of the same overwhelmingly. It's kind of the same general trend. But on the hitting side, it's hit tool, on base ability, great bat to ball skills. Like that's what you saw over and over and over with these bats, whether it was the college guy, the JUCO guy, or the high school guy, all the same thing. I think I like it. And a lot of these guys have the same thing. There is high hard hit rates. There's good barrel rates. There's good EVs. Like there's power potential in there, but the baseline, they make good contact, they get on base, is already there. And that's something that, we typically haven't seen with these hitters in these classes. So I think we were all wondering if we were going to see a switch this year. I think we did.
Yeah, I think I saw someone tweet out that we're going, what was it? I can't remember the team that does this specifically, but going for the bat the ball, and then Red Sox is what it was. And then you can always strength train, bat speed train, whatever, the weighted bats, the way these guys can maybe just add a little boost. But yeah, I absolutely love this draft. Honestly, I think it's my favorite draft of the Mike Elias era. And mostly that's because in 2019, didn't really know what we were getting into. It was a 40-round draft. But just with all the context of what we've been able to do since this front office took over, there's not one pick that I was like disappointed by. I mean, yeah, like Nick said, the RJ, names, got to learn these names real quick. RJ Austin pick was a little underwhelming, but there's definitely some things to like there. It's not like it was dreadful. It wasn't as bad as when we drafted Griffo Farrell last year, and I was just like, But yeah, I think this was a slam dunk. If anything, I actually like the Caden Bodine pick more since when we were live, just because, man, he is a smooth receiver behind the plate. And if he can just hit for average, that's enough to be incredibly valuable in this game. And thanks. I actually don't hate Griffo Farrell, but I just hated where he was picked. But yeah, I absolutely love this draft. I can't wait to break it down more, get these guys signed into the system. Man, a lot of upside. I love the JUCO meta that we've tapped into here, and just getting these guys in younger before they transfer to a big school and up their value. Grab them early, coach them up. It's kind of in between high school and college, or full year college, that you don't have the great competitive data that you do for the Division I guys, but also they're younger, more data than high school. So yeah, huge fan.
Yeah, and we're going to break down some more of these trends later on. And I know that the JUCO picks, there were 7 total in this year's draft, or something we're going to talk about a lot as we get into the later rounds. The Orioles have kind of dabbled in this in the last couple of years, most notably picking Michael Ferret out of the JUCO ranks in the 2023 draft. But they took that to another level this year. I'm going to backtrack, though, and start with where we left off after our live show on Sunday night. We were on the air for the Orioles' first 4 picks: Ike Iris, Caden Bodine, Vahia Aloy, and Slater DeBrun. And then with the next pick, the Orioles had on night 1, number 58 overall, they selected left-hander Joseph Jirwa out of Michigan State. Jirwa becomes the highest picked pitcher out of Michigan State since Mark Mulder went number 2 overall in 1998. Since arriving on campus as a freshman back in 2023, Jirwa has solidified himself as a really solid starting pitcher for the Spartans. Fastball right now typically sitting in about the 90 to 93 range, but he's got an interesting pitch mix to go with that, plus a 3/4 low arm slot from his 6'8" frame, which makes him tough for hitters to pick up. There's, I think, when you look at Jirwa, an interesting foundation to build on: the arm slot, the fastball, which he locates pretty well and seemingly has some room to add velo to, and then to go with the changeup, slider, and a cutter per MLB Pipeline's report. So we'll go back to Nick here for this one. I think we had a sense as we went off the air on Sunday night that the Orioles were going to target a pitcher or two before the night was over. And Jirwa is a guy that in a lot of ways fits their profile. But what do you think makes him an intriguing pick in this spot?
I mean, he's what, 6'7", 6'8"? He's 6'8", 200 pounds. Like, it's just a projectable arm, a super projectable arm. Like, you can continue to fill him out physically. He's already touching 95. So yeah, he's sitting in the low 90s, but he added a couple of ticks to the fastball already this year. So get him in, build him up physically, add a couple more ticks to the fastball. Instead of sitting in the low 90s, maybe can he sit 93, 94 and touch 97 in a year or so? It's a really uncomfortable look. They got a couple guys in this class who are tall lefty. There's another one too later in the draft that I'm excited to look at, but that are going to be uncomfortable looks. But Jirwa is just like this. This is a starter build, starter body. And yes, he's tall. There's a lot of moving parts, but he has it under control already. And it's like he has fantastic control already. It's plus control. He throws first pitch strikes at an elite rate. He throws a ton of strikes. And I was skeptical. Like, he was, of course, getting a lot of buzz early on because, like, he started the year against Western Michigan, 6 shutout, 11 strikeouts. Washington State, 7 shutout, 12 strikeouts. Harvard, 6 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, 2 total walks in those 3 starts. But you're like, all right, this is a Big Ten program, and that's highly inferior competition he's going up against. I don't buy those early season strikeout numbers. Settled in a little bit against some tougher, like, bigger Big Ten programs. And then down the stretch, like, he was strong against some of the better Big Ten teams. 9 innings, shutout, no walks, 11 strikeouts against Oregon, who was top 10 in the country at the time. Like, he showed he could do it against bigger programs as well. And this is a pick where I think because the Big Ten, their games are, they're paywalled behind Big Ten Plus. So as like fans, you don't really get to see a lot of Big Ten baseball. Like, you can go on ESPN app and watch anybody else any other time whenever you want to, but not the Big Ten. Look online in the discussion about the Jirwa after that pick and even into today. Everyone, all these national evaluators at all these websites, everyone who has been to the field to see this guy in person loves him, raves about him, can't get enough of him. I think that tells you like everything you need to know about where he stands as a prospect. Like, this guy's got a lot of fans in the industry.
And you could see why. You see his delivery and it's like really funky. And I love that he's got that low arm slot, because now I think studies are showing that is better for the arm, less injuries potentially, hopefully, knock on wood. If he's touching 95, there was a tweet from Timothy Chen at TimStats. I don't know exactly how reputable these Stuff Plus numbers are, but I saw it tweeted out. I noted it down. Fastball 113.7, stuff plus, changeup 113.3, slider 105.6, and cutter 104.7. So that sounds good to me. It's like I was saying in our Discord for the patrons that the perfect, like, because now we know what the Orioles do with these guys after they draft them, and the way they kind of cook them up in the lab, the MedStar lab up in Bel Air near me. This is like the perfect frame of Orioles dominant lefty in the future. I feel like he's going to ramp up the velocity probably a little bit, probably add a kick change, or no, his changeup's already good. That's one thing, but they'll mess with him and tune him up into a beast, and I'm sure he'll be like a top 15 prospect before too long. But yeah, I just love all the pitchers they took, but especially this guy Jirwa. Love it. Love the frame, the delivery, the potential is huge here. So I like it. And I think, who was it? Baseball America had him as the 50th ranked prospect in the draft, and you got him in the second round, third round. I can't remember anymore. Yeah, second round. We had so many picks. Yeah, big fan of this guy.
With their next pick in the draft, 69th overall, the Orioles went with another college pitcher, this time selecting 6'6" right-hander JT Quinn out of Georgia. Quinn has sort of been a hybrid pitcher in the sense of bouncing back and forth between the rotation in the bullpen at Georgia. There has been a sense, though, that with the fastball that he can get up to the upper 90s and some frenzy secondaries that maybe he could start. That idea has been furthered by a really strong performance this summer on the Cape. And now we know the Orioles from prior years put a lot of emphasis on what they see players do in the Cape Cod League. But that's typically been a conversation we've had around hitters. This time around, we're talking about it with a pitcher. Quinn, somebody that has been identified, I think, around the industry as a relief prospect that some teams might try to stretch out into a starter based on his profile. And the momentum for that has definitely picked up over the course of the summer.
Yeah, I actually, sorry, Nick. I was just going to say, I actually liked Quinn maybe better than Jirwa. I just like that high octane arm, and actually Lance Brzezowski is a big fan of his as well. He tweeted out 3 day one pitcher picks he liked, and JT Quinn was one of them. He said 2 94 to 95 mile per hour fastballs, 85 mile per hour slider. That's around 4 inches of invert IVB from a 6.5 foot release point. I didn't realize he had the 2 different fastballs, but I love that for a power arm like him. And the slider is supposed to be really good. So this is the one where they'll teach him a splitter or a kick change or whatever to add that extra dimension to his game. I think this is going to be a guy that's going to, I saw a lot of people say, "Oh, you drafted a reliever this high." I don't think JT Quinn's going to be a reliever in this organization. I think this is a guy that's going to really turn some heads next year once they get him cooking.
No, this is 100% a starter. You drafted him because they're going to develop him as a starter. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if, and again, like the draft just happened. So we're allowed to dream big on these guys. We're allowed to sit here and think of like their 100th percentile outcome here for a moment. I think if everything clicks and everything goes right, like JT Quinn is a major league mid-rotation starter, in my opinion. You're throwing 98 already with another plus secondary. Yeah, the control is a little iffy, but you mentioned the Cape Cod performance already. 25 strikeouts to 2 walks in 14 innings in the Cape Cod League. I think that right there, if you're on the fence, or you're like, we like him, but like here's our grade, we got him ranked here. I think if the Orioles probably had him fairly high on their board already, and I guarantee you after they saw whatever he's doing in the Cape and limiting to just 2 walks, I guarantee you that bumped him up. And for me, it says if they took him 68th overall and not a round or so later, taking him 68th overall, I took that 100% as, yeah, they love his starter potential. They're going to stretch him out as a starter. Here we go. And we're fully bought in. We're going to be aggressive with this arm. So, yeah, and I think I saw the injuries. Like he was at Mississippi State. He was at Ole Miss for 2 years, and he was not good at Ole Miss. And then he transferred to Georgia, and Georgia got a lot out of him, but they just never gave him a chance to start. And I think I saw I saw 1 or 2 articles talking about how they wanted to just let him eat out of the bullpen. They're kind of, I don't know if it was babying him is the right word, but they held him back a little bit. It seemed like at Georgia, didn't let him go full bore as a starter. I think they had Brian Curley, that crazed maniac closer they had. They transitioned him to a starter, so maybe that took one of the rotation spots. But he just didn't get unleashed at Georgia. And the injuries, no shoulder, no elbow. It was like an oblique thing that got him, and blister. I think he has a blister issue that keeps recurring. So we can take care of the blisters. No elbow, no shoulder, plus stuff. Yeah, Quinn was the guy in college. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like it. But if the Orioles are going to be this aggressive, I'm already fully bought in here.
Quinn had pitched in 17 games at Georgia this past spring. Only 7 of those were starts. The one thing that I kept thinking when I saw this pick was, we know that the Orioles like to take prospects with a reliever profile that have been used out of the bullpen in college and try to make them into starters. So they've done that with Alex Pham. Levi Wells, again, a guy that I think a lot of people thought coming out of the draft last year was going to be a reliever. They've stretched him out as a starter, and so far it is working. I think that what they're trying to do here is use a similar formula, but with a guy that has better stuff coming into the system than some of these other pitchers have, and not to mention this track record in the Cape Cod League, which I know it's just 3 starts, but those are really, really good numbers.
Yeah, I think I've heard that the Cape Cod is actually like a really good representative of what a player could potentially be. Blake Money, another example on the reliever to starter front. But yeah, I would love to see JT Quinn, with the limited innings, maybe he can get some Delmarva innings here in August before the season ends, just to give us a little taste.
The final pick on night 1 was outfielder RJ Austin, and Austin's prospect journey at this point has been very nonlinear. If you go back to 2022, he was coming out of the draft and seen as a possible top 5 round talent, but withdrew from the draft to go to Vanderbilt. And when you look at his Vanderbilt numbers, it's kind of a mixed result. And he had offensively an underwhelming season in 2025. And that came on the heels of what was a very strong Cape Cod performance in 2024. And I do wonder if that lingered in the Orioles' mind. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Austin right now an outfielder, but he does profile with some defensive versatility, as he started at second base as a freshman at Vanderbilt and moved over to first base as a sophomore, has also seen time at all 4 infield positions. It does look like for now the Orioles try to stick Austin in the outfield, but that versatility could make him an interesting player going forward. I'm kind of curious to get your guys' thoughts on this, because we've seen the Orioles go this route before with college outfielders that have 1 or 2 interesting tools, but mixed track records at the plate, hoping they can get something out of them. Douglas Hodo, Dante Williams are 2 guys that come to mind. What do you think that the Orioles, first off, what do you see in Austin, and what do you think that the Orioles see that made him a target at 93 overall?
There's something about 3rd round picks for the Orioles. They're outfielders. You got Zach Watson in this range, John Rhodes, Tavian Josenberger. Douglas Hodo also came to mind. I think he was a little bit later, but at first I was pretty mixed to off on this one. But love the energy, love the makeup, love the defense. But I didn't love that not much impact with the bat. But then, I saw that, I believe Herder was a 6th round pick. But I think there is something here where he could hit it. I don't see him as like anything more like the ceiling is low, in my opinion. But also think the floor is kind of high. I think he could be a really good organizational piece. Maybe one day could be like a Billy Cook type that, he can flash on a bench every once in a while when needed with his athleticism alone. I think he's a good pick I wouldn't say a good pick as far as like prospect rankings, but just a good solid pick as far as this is what we're looking for this year. People that can make contact with the ball, and then we'll try to improve their swing decisions and the way they can impact it from there. It's kind of like a sneak peek of what day 2 was going to be like for the Bets.
Yeah, I just feel like this is a tough one for me as well, because like you go back, he performed in the Cape, he performed with Team USA, great showings there. some article about when he was like testing with Team USA. I mean, some of his testing numbers would have ranked like among some of the top at the combine this year. And so it just feels like all the underlying stuff is there. The tools are there. Everything's just there. It just hasn't clicked for him yet. I mean, he won a Gold Glove this year at Vanderbilt out in center field. So yes, the defense and speed is there. The personality and makeup are certainly there, but it was just it was frustrating for me just because I remember looking at him. He was opening weekend and they played in some tournament. It was on MLB Network, and it was I remember the broadcast talking like, hey, power, if the power starts to click for RJ Austin this year, like he is going to take off. He could be an early round draft pick. And then he nuked 112 mile per hour home run, like dead center, a beautiful shot. You're like, all right. I remember that was like the first weekly college article I wrote, and I'm like, all right, here's RJ Austin. Like, I'm excited to see what he can do this year for Vanderbilt. He only hit one more home run the rest of the year, though. So, does he need the home run to be this impact pick? I don't know. I instantly thought of like Tavian Josenberger as well, because just that second base center field type. But like Josenberger was on the rise. He transferred to Arkansas, and the home run power took off. A lot of these other guys, same thing. John Rhodes was he was on the upswing. RJ Austin is just a little bit different than a lot of these other guys. He's not on the upswing. He had a much better sophomore year, and then junior season was like a 72 WRC plus. So even as his good sophomore year was a 98 WRC plus. So there is a lot to like. Maybe it's just about tweaking and unlocking a couple things here, but I don't hate this pick at all. I think just knowing what little I know about him and the personality, like you can't hate him at all, I don't think. But it's just like I don't know. What's the plan, I guess, with Austin? What's the vision that the organization has with him? If I knew that, I'd probably feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about this pick. I think that one thing that helps it is if I look at the whole class, you knew at some point, and he's not the only player with this profile, so we've got a few more to talk about that I think have similar question marks. You're definitely taking a chance that the bat is going to come around, given the very mixed track record he's had at Vanderbilt. I don't mind the pick here because I think they did so well at the top of the draft with the hitters that they selected that if Austin doesn't quite pan out in the third round, it's not going to be the end of the world. Now, I do think that there's an interesting skill set here. I wanted to highlight the versatility because I do think that that's something that could come into play. But there's no question that this is going to be a project with the bat. We'll go now into day two picks. And what we're going to do here is kind of group some players together because there's a lot of names to go through. I'm going to go start off with rounds 4 through 6. Colin Yeaman, a shortstop out of UC Irvine. Nick, I know that you really like Yeaman a lot, so I'm curious to get your thoughts about him in just a moment. The Orioles went another shortstop, this time from the high school ranks, with Jaden Loray out of Corona del Sol High School in Arizona. The Orioles took the 5'11", 180-pound shortstop with this pick, which has a $452,000 slot value. Loray is committed to BYU. And then at number 6, another right-handed pitcher with some helium around him, and that is Caden Hunter out of USC. Hunter from Northern California spent 2 years at Sierra College before transferring to USC. So we'll break each of these players down individually, but I want to start with Yeaman. He was somebody we highlighted in our mock draft episode recently. A shortstop with some power. Seems like he could stick at the position, but there are questions about the hit tool.
I love Colin Yeaman. Going into the NCAA tournament, I was like, I did like a 7 earlier in the year. I did like a 7 mid-major pitching prospects to watch, and I never got around to the hitters until the NCAA tournament started. I'm like, here you go. Let's look at these mid-major programs in the NCAA tournament. Let's find some mid-major bats. And Colin Yeaman was one of those guys. First at bat in the NCAA tournament, he hits a home run. Thank God. But this is a JUCO kid, transferred to UC Irvine, 13 home runs, OPS over 1,000, good walk, good strikeout numbers. The video that I put on the draft tweet, that was him hitting a home run earlier this year off Tyler Bremner, who the Angels drafted number 2 overall. Good show there. Like the hard hit rate is really good. exit velos very strong. Like I don't know. I think if this is the guy who you're going to hit 15 plus home runs a year, I think, even if he ends up at second base. Like I do think he ends up at second base, but he's going to hit 15 plus home runs. He's going to hit for average. I like this guy. And I do remember that mock draft. I'm glad we went that route too, because we wanted that infielder. And I'm like, I think we're all about to just give in and say, let's take Henry Godbout. Which shout out to the Red Sox for taking him. They took a lot of great pitchers in the draft, but thanks for taking the falling knife on Godbout there. But that's like Colin Yeaman. This is the guy. I don't know. The kid's a baller. Kid's a gamer. But for the unanalytical analysis there, he's a gamer.
Yeah, absolutely love this pick. I would have been stoked with him at round 3 instead of Austin there, but glad we were able to get them both. Yeah, I think Fangraphs had him as the 27th best draft prospect overall, period. But I think Eric thinks he can stick at shortstop, which a lot of people don't. But even if he has to move to second base, just what a bat. I mean, this is like your perfect Connor Norby type of, and I think he might have less swing and miss than Norby did, but just a guy that just can just hit the ball. That's what he is. He's a hitter, and to be up the middle, I think all of our picks were pretty much right up the middle of the field, which you got to love. Yeah, I could not like this pick anymore. I thought they were going to get Quentin Rhodes too in the next round, like we mocked too, but I think the Rays might have scooped him up. But yeah, love this pick. Yeah, man.
110 max EV hard hit rate was almost 55%. I think I said 60% in the tweet. I think that was wrong. It's closer to like 55%, but still, he sees ball and hits ball very hard.
Go to Lil Ray now. There's not a ton of information out there about Lil Ray, at least that I could see in preparing for this show. I wanted to pull this, though, from Baseball America, which had him as their 413th best prospect in the class. They noted that he doesn't miss frequently, can put the barrel on the ball with a chance for an average hit tool, though his raw power is just frenzy. That's a direct quote there from Baseball America's report. And I mentioned the frame earlier, 5'11", 180. I'm curious to see how much physical projection there is left, because if the Orioles want to try to add power, this could be a player that they do it with. But the question comes into play here of whether or not the Orioles are going to be able to sign him away from BYU. There's no indication yet of what his bonus demands look like, so I don't want to speculate about whether or not that might happen. But if he does come into the system, the Orioles have at least added another young, athletic, up-the-middle player.
I honestly have no concerns about being able to sign anybody in this draft class, given the amount of money that the Orioles have at their disposal. But yeah, we get Lil Slay and we also get Low Ray. So, I mean, it's just perfect when the high school ranks. Seems like a spark plug. I know nothing about him other than, obviously, if the Orioles are taking a high school position player, especially because they really don't take many high school pitchers, they feel really good about it because their hit rate on high school position players taken in the draft, they don't do it often, but when they do, you get your Gunnar Hendersons, you get your Daryl Hernandezes, you get your Creed Willems, et cetera, et cetera. So excited. It seems like a spark plug. Yeah, I'm excited to just get him in the system, see what they can do with him, because get these guys as soon as possible, as young as possible, into professional development, which the Orioles have proven to be pretty good at. And I think that's what they want to do as well, just based on the junior college picks later on. But yeah, I'm a fan of the pick, despite, I will admit, I knew less than nothing about this kid.
Yeah, never heard of him until before tonight. But I think I found that if this is correct, he had a 3.2% strikeout rate in high school this year. Obviously, that's high school numbers, but still pretty solid there. Joe Doyle had him ranked 201 on his big board. Said he's got twitch and bounce that scouts look for. Profiles at second base, but sneaky bat speed. The thing for me, it was funny. The broadcast. I don't know if anybody else was watching the broadcast. And when the pick was made, the broadcast was not excited about him. I think they didn't seem very optimistic that the contact skills and the bat to ball would translate to offensive success, I think is how Jim Callis or Mayo put it. I think it was Mayo. It was Mayo's guy who was like, but I think that was more they were just caught off guard and really didn't have enough information and didn't go back, unfortunately. But I'm going to take it as that because he was, I guess, Joe Doyle gave him a good ranking there. And then Kylie McDaniel, I noticed this only because I think is it Lou Ray? I live right next to Lou Ray, so I'm gonna confuse that all the time. But Kylie's final mock draft, I think he's like version 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, like up until he had to go on air. But he did the first round, and then he did like other names to know. So it was like Braves at whatever pick they had. Here's my pick. But then other names to know in later rounds. He had Lorray for like 2 other teams, at least the Tigers and the Braves, as like, keep this name in mind for later rounds. So in my mind, I'm just thinking, all right, if Kylie McDaniel is going to take some time in this final mock draft to jot his name down multiple times, and the Orioles said, we're going to be aggressive and pounce on him here in the 4th round? Was it 4th round, 5th round? I'm going to take note. We'll wait and see, but I'm excited for him.
Going to Hunter now, the Orioles' 6th round pick out of USC, and corrects on what I said earlier, he is a left-hander. Interesting profile here because 70 innings pitched this season, 25% strikeout rate. The fastball has typically been sitting in the low 90s throughout his college career, but we did see a velo bump as this season went on. He was able to top out at 95 miles per hour. Right now, he pairs the fastball with a slider and a changeup. So a couple of interesting secondaries to go along with a fastball that seems to gradually be getting better. So I do think that much like the picks they made earlier in the draft, their college pitchers, the Orioles went with guys that kind of fit their profile, and they felt like there was an upward arrow next to their name in terms of draft prospects.
Another pick that I loved, Matt Blood, give me a call. Can we talk a little bit here? It was USC versus Rice series at the beginning of the year. I loved Rice's starter, Davian Hickson. Of course, the Dodgers popped him. But then I'm like, Caden Hunter on the other side of that Friday night game is a JUCO kid. I'm searching far and wide for information. He was JUCO last year and immediately stepped into USC's Friday night role. I'm searching everywhere for information. I'm listening to these like random USC podcasts that are talking about baseball, trying to find out information. They're not talking about him. All I'm finding is some note that in fall ball after he transferred, apparently gave up like 1 hit in a couple of games, and he had a good year, a good fall season. I'm watching this game, and I fell in love instantly with Caden Hunter. Like, the stuff is there. You talk about that good clay. I think the fastball is there. The slider has potential. The changeup is really good to righties. I think there is projection here. He does need to throw more strikes. I think that is a concern, but I think it was one of the first draft podcasts I did. I said, I don't care if no one else is talking about this kid right now. I'm going to talk about him. This is a must-watch arm who's going to get buzz later on, who's going to be talked about more and more as the season progresses. And sure enough, here you go. The Orioles taking him in the 6th round, which is friggin' awesome. I legitimately see like back-end rotation upside here with Caden Hunter, which for your 6th round draft pick, you feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. I love this pick because Nick loves this pick, and he was right on it. Anytime your guy gets picked by your team that you predicted kind of or wanted to happen, I'm all about it. Yeah. I don't have much on him other than I only know what Nick wrote in our Substack about him. So I'm excited. Yeah, I think another building block that the Orioles can really work with here, a taller left-handed pitcher, and that's kind of what they were going after all day.
And you're going to have a little bit more of that as we get further into this draft class. And I will round out the top 10, starting in the 7th round with Hunter Allen, a big right-hander out of Ashland University in Ohio, with some pretty interesting stuff, but some question marks about his command. He was followed in the 8th round by Kalen Hampson, a native of Australia who was drafted out of the University of Cumberland in Kentucky. The left-hander possesses a high-spin fastball that touches 95 miles per hour. He was followed by a player that I think we're going to be talking about quite a bit, not just now, but later on in this show, outfielder Cam Lee, a JUCO pick from Mineral area, 19-year-old, hit .444 this past season with 13 runs and 32 stolen bases. He was followed in the 10th round by Dalton Neuswander, a right-hander listed at 6'1", 200 pounds, out of the University of Left Florida. He possesses a fastball that touches 97 miles per hour. So I think we'll start here with Allen, a player that stands out for a lot of reasons. Interesting background. He started out at Owens Community College in Ohio before transferring to Ashland this year. It was a little bit of a struggle towards the end of this season for him, and there were some command issues that a lot of national reports have noted, but it's also easy to see where the theme of the night or the theme of the draft when it came to pitchers carries over to Allen because he possesses a lot of the same traits that we know that the Orioles like.
Yeah. The other trend of the night is also there's Jaden, there's Caden, there's Kalen, there's another one. There's a Braden. There are a lot of Aidens in this draft class as well. But Hunter Allen. We're talking about Hunter Allen, right? Yes. Hunter Allen was a fun one because Burt Granger, formerly at Prospects Live, I know he saw him, shared his video, and he responded. He was like, "Yeah, I love this pick for the Orioles." It seemed like a lot of people really love this pick for the Orioles. Even the broadcast said that he's going to touch 100 miles per hour, and he flashes 3 potential plus pitches. This is from the D2 ranks, right? So I think this is another example of everyone who's been down to Ashland, which I think it's in Ohio, a school in Ohio, learned a lot of fun new schools with this draft class too. But everyone who went down to see him pitch seems to really love this kid. So I think it's a matter of like cleaning up the delivery, making a couple tweaks. He does have control issues as well, but make those tweaks, see what happens. If anything, you got a guy that throws 100 miles an hour right now. So I like the 6'4" big guy. See what he can do.
Yeah, I can't remember when Joe Doyle tweeted it out, but it was like the Orioles are crushing the JUCO ranks, like as a compliment in a good way. And that was before we went on to take like 5 more guys after that. But yeah, arm talent. Again, you get premium arm talent. We talked about it 2023, 2024. You get guys with more arm talent and you do what you were able to do as a first run that maybe it didn't work out necessarily, but I think it was worth it just because the Orioles now know exactly what to do and they're always evolving just like the best organizations do. And yeah, this guy has obviously really good arm talent and I'm excited to see what the Orioles can do with him.
Yeah, I found Eric Longhagen's report over at Fangraphs interesting. He had Allen as a 35 plus future value with high risk, noting some delivery concerns, saying that he has a long arm action with a bit of a head whack, and that there has been no track record of throwing strikes throughout his career. So right now you're probably projecting reliever, but at the same time, as Eric notes in his report, he possesses a deep pitch mix, which could really pop in pro ball, given the limited resources he's had to work with during his collegiate career. So this, to me, is a project I suspect that the Orioles are going to try for as long as they can to stick him in the rotation. And at low A and high A next year, you're going to see him start a lot. But they have the ability to do that. They have the ability to take their time to do that. And they can always move him to the bullpen need be. And I think the stuff would play up there.
Yeah. And I know Bob was talking about Cam Lee later on, so maybe save him. But I just want to talk about real quick Kaylee Hampson, the 8th rounder out of University of Cumberland in Kentucky. So back-to-back years, NAIA school in Kentucky. I mean, stuff-wise, all right, so he's an Australian. But stuff-wise, we got, fastball 91 to 93, topped out at 94 with 16 plus inches of IVB, cutter, curveball, slider, changeup, so deep pitch mix. Joe Doyle says Hampson's stuff can get big leaguers out right now. Spin, carry, big whiff, and chase numbers, a data darling to dream on. Something of a Gabe Spire look if he can rein in the fastball command. I love, this is obviously going to be a severely underslot pick right here. And I love going after this type of player for the underslot deal. It's like you could have went a Jake Knapp from UNC or Mac Hewer from Texas Tech. These like 24-year-olds who, yeah, they could be like AA innings eaters for you tomorrow if you need them to, but they're going to, best case scenario, they're like AAA low leverage relief guys. Why not take this NAIA guy with 5 pitches? 64% strike percentage this year, 67% first strike percentage this year. Like throws a ton of strikes, deep mix, good stuff, a metric standout, a metric darling. Clearly there's some projection, probably a chip on his shoulder as well. I'd much rather bring kids like this in and see what they can do versus these older college senior sign guys who are already like maxed out across the board.
Yeah, for those wondering, the Orioles now have gone the NAIA conference the last 2 years. Last year, Cohen Aiken was selected out of Lindsey Wilson College, another program in that conference. I want to talk for a moment, and I know we have more to say about him, about Lee, because if you want to look for kind of the athletic five-tool-ish type player that maybe could pop in the system, Lee feels like he could fit that mold.
Yeah, I mean, where's Lee here on my thing here? Probably more of a project pick here, but when you look at all the college guys they signed, and even some of the earlier high school guys that are kind of Slater DeBrun seems like a higher floor, at least of not so much as a long-term project here. But with a guy like Cam Lee, Joe Doyle called him a hidden gem with bat-to-ball skills that could hit all the way up through the organization. Maybe he doesn't profile as a power hitter, but still, same thing. He does have home runs on his resume, at least down there in the JUCO ranks. And I mean, if he's already hitting the ball well, he's got that speed. Unlock a few things, see if you get more power to the bat here. I mean, we can say that about a lot of these guys in this draft class, but I don't know. I like this Cam Lee pick. I think a lot of people, I wouldn't be surprised if you see, like, if Baseball America does an article like team by team or something. I wouldn't be surprised if you see somewhere like the sleeper pick for each draft class, someone's going to have Cam Lee as their sleeper in this class.
Yes, well, they should, because I think this guy exemplifies what I was kind of saying in the beginning of this episode, where it's like he's 19 years old. So it's not like a high schooler necessarily, although, sometimes there are some older high schoolers that are around 19 when drafted, but, it's just like that extra year of experience in the junior college ranks, but not quite exploded onto the scene. So I think it's kind of like a little loophole. I think the Orioles have kind of, and it's not like they're the first team that has ever thought of this, I'm sure, but just kind of like, if a guy goes to a big Division I college, they got to wait 2-3 years before they can get back in the draft. Well, this is a way to kind of to snake some talented kids before they are in that situation. So yeah, big fan of this pick. I think seems like a really, again, I didn't know anything about him until just reading what people said about him, but just seems like a lot of upside here. And we tweeted out that he had 444, 13 home runs, 32 stolen bases, plus runner. Joe Doyle said a hidden gem, bat to ball skills to hit his way up the developmental ladder. So yeah, you got to love it.
Just real quickly, talk about Dalton Neuswander, the 10th round pick for the Orioles. I really like the fact that you're able to get a guy in this spot that has a deep pitch mix like Neuswander does. Fastball right now touching 97. He's got 4 other pitches to go along with that. Kind of interested to see once he gets into the system and we start to hear a little bit more about what the data behind those pitches might look like. Because for a 10th rounder, you talk about wanting to find some guys that maybe have a little bit more helium or a little bit more projection than typical college senior signs at this stage. Neuswander may fit that mold.
Yeah, he's 23 years old, so older guy, 3-year starter at West Florida. Strikeouts took a big jump forward this year. He sawed off an aluminum bat in college. When I found that clip, I'm like, that's amazing. But he also has his own professionally done website. They shouted out on the broadcast. Melanie Newman loves the website. This guy is Melanie Newman's favorite prospect in the system. Now you can tell if you're watching the broadcast. It's got full bio, photos, videos, a resume. It's the whole thing. And he writes his own scouting report. It says Neuswander enters the 2025 MLB draft as a high-profile prospect armed with a fastball that touches 97, confirmed by MLB scouts. It's written in third person too, which is awesome. Velo, control, endurance has made him a standout within the Gulf South Conference and a rising name on the national stage. As funny as that is, like, in all seriousness, yes, he's older arm, but like you say, he's got the deep pitch mix. He's throwing 97 miles per hour. All right. He's a fast rising relief prospect in the system. Like, you'll take that in with your 10th round pick.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add, but again, just talented arm. Get him in here. Let's see what we can do with him.
Going on to the next part of the draft now, I'll cover rounds 11 through 15. In In the 11th round, the Orioles took left-hander Holden Dizon out of the New Jersey Institute of Technology High School. Dizon only threw 25 innings just 29 innings this past spring, as he recently had Tommy John surgery. So it's going to be a while before we see him, if he does indeed sign with the Orioles. But fastball, it was up to 95 this spring to go as a slider and change mix after adding weight and strength coming into the year. In the 12th round, the Orioles went with Odessa College right-hander Daniel Lopez, who fanned 81 batters and 49 2/3 innings pitched this past season. He has a fastball that tops out at 98 miles per hour. In the 13th round, the Orioles went with left-handed hitting second baseman Braden Smith out of Oklahoma State. Smith hit .304 this past season with 11 homers, 16 doubles, and a 112 WRC plus to go with an 11% walk rate. Feels like a good way here for the Orioles to raise the floor of their infield depth in the 13th round. That was followed up in the 14th round by New Mexico junior college right-hander Brian Oranta. 83 strikeouts and 85 innings pitched this year. 4-pitch mix that includes a 90 to 94 mile per hour fastball. He is committed to Oklahoma, and he has topped out at 98 this year, by the way. And then in the 15th round, the Orioles took Pearl River Community College right-hander K.K. Clark, formerly at Mississippi State. Clark had 116 strikeouts to 22 walks and a 1.84 ERA in 88 innings pitched this season. His repertoire is highlighted by a 4-pitch mix. So the Orioles going back to the junior college ranks in this range to get what comes out to be an interesting mix of pitchers along with an infield prospect that, as I said, might raise the floor of the system a little bit.
Yeah, that Braden, oh shoot, now the names have slipped from my brain that fast. Braden Smith pick I thought was really, really cool. I like that, getting a college solid infielder there. Probably not going to become, like, you can't really dream on it necessarily, but again, just super solid. This is the kind of guy that, like, AA Bowie, High A Aberdeen is missing today, like right now. So very good for that sagging middle that we've talked about. KK Clark, you can't, no, I can't, not with the allegations already against this organization. I just can't with that. But
let me find his real name.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to call him something.
Full name, no.
You're right. But yeah, the pitchers, again, just love that you get these guys in here. Like Daniel Lopez, I think, is again like 19, 20 years old. So is Arantia and Clark. DeJong, yeah, let's get that surgery out of the way. Like, I kind of like that, because maybe you got him a little. Anything after 11 and later is gonna be probably around when you're, it's just, I got distracted. Sorry about that. No, Jesus, my kid just gave it to the room. Oh my God. Where's his parents? But yeah, I lost my train of thought. The pitchers, yeah, upside, get them while they're young, and when they're hurt, and we can rehab them the right way and knock that out of the way. Get them after takeover. Nick.
Yeah. So just for the record, real quick, per his Mississippi State bio, KK's Clark's full name is Kincaid Patrick Clark.
Kincaid. I like Kincaid. We could roll with Kincaid. But yeah, they did this last year with an undrafted free agent pitcher. Like, the first undrafted guy they brought in after the 2024 draft was a New York high school pitcher, Ramos. I think it's Alex Ramos. He had just had Tommy John surgery, so he's not going to pitch this year. But hey, you say, hey, come rehab with us. We'll fix you up, and then we've got you in the system. We already like you. It is what it is, unfortunately. Just part of the game the Orioles are playing. Kid took a little bit of money. Probably could have got a lot more if he would have went to school, but, it could be a win-win on both sides.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Holden DeJong thing, we'll see. We'll see him if he had the surgery early, because it looked like he was actually pitching against UMBC, and then walks were a major issue. But if you look at his game log, walking a lot of guys, and then UMBC game, he had 5 strikeouts, no walks through 2 innings. And I think that might have been when the injury happened. So if he had the surgery early, maybe we see him at the end of next year's FCL season. Elsewhere, these guys, the Daniel Lopez, all these JUCO guys, same thing. It's 98, 98, 98, 98, all of them. They all topped out at 98 miles per hour. I like the Daniel Lopez. He's just like a smaller, compact guy. He's listed at 6'1", but he looks like a little smaller than that. The Brian Arantia up to 98. His delivery, someone fact check me here. I think his delivery looks a lot like Nestor Herman. I don't know if the stuff can't compare the stuff, but I think just delivery wise, I tried it out. I think there's some Nestor Herman there. The KK Clark thing, it's just the Kincaid, the numbers. Yes, it was JUCO. This was a Mississippi State kid, so he was an SEC arm. He's only 5'11", so a little bit undersized. I think it's a low 90s fastball. I bet the fastball metrics are amazing, though, because you look at his numbers. He had 116 strikeouts in 88 innings, just 22 walks, so good control. I think it was the second most strikeouts in a single season in Pearl River Community College history. I go back to Cohen Aiken last year. I go back to Stephen Loftus, our resident expert before the Atlanta Braves stole him from us. When he would say, like, sometimes it doesn't matter the level, the numbers are just so astronomical, you got to pay attention. They're telling you something regardless of age or level. I felt that with Cohen Aiken. That's why I was so intrigued coming into this year with Aiken. I feel like that's going to be the same thing here with Clark. And yeah, the Braden Smith, I love this one as well, just because if it's average tools across the board, there's pop in the bat, and there's still good solid hit tool. He's played second. He was announced as a second baseman, but he played a lot of center field at Oklahoma State this year. So he can play around the field. He's got good pop. He's going to hit for average. He's going to get on base. 13th round pick. Yeah, maybe he's an offensive minded utility guy at the major league level. Best case scenario. That's fantastic for a 13th round pick. So yeah, I'm excited to see Braden Smith. This could be a guy who he probably sees some time in Delmarva in 2 weeks, and he's hitting like 415 after the first week, and they're like, we'll bump you up to Aberdeen. I could see that with him. Yeah,
and just to go back around, Daniel Lopez, 81 strikeouts in 49.2 innings. Like, that's pretty darn good stuff there. Arantia, Oklahoma commit, so obviously you're going to have to pay up a little bit probably to get him out of that, but again, we have the money to do it. And I guess you talked about Kincaid Clark a lot. So yeah, love the stat line there. Get these guys in the system as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what these guys end up signing for, these JUCO kids, because yeah, they're JUCO kids, but they're all also committed to big time programs. So I feel like maybe because you can go up to $150,000 without dipping into your signing bonus pool. If I can see if I can quickly pull up last year's, probably not going to, but I'm just anxious to see, like, are you going to be able to get a lot of these guys for 250, 300, and just like, you're not going to have to blow them away, but you're just like bit by bit, they're going to eat into this. I'm trying to look. Isaiah Salinas got $150,000, but I think he was committed to Oklahoma State, maybe. Who else? I can't do this live on air. Do it. I think that was the only one.
I do think it's also really smart the way that they waited to take these JUCOs and some of these high school guys into the 11 to 20 round range, because 150,000 is basically free. It doesn't count against your cap. So yeah, I think that's another way they kind of tried to game the system this year in a smart way.
We'll go in now to the final picks of this draft. Denton Biller, a right-hander out of Johnson County Community College in Kansas, was taken in the 16th round. You're going to be hearing a little bit more about him later on, but this is a prospect that I think all three of us are very intrigued by. 69 strikeouts and 64 innings pitched this season. He is committed to transfer to Arkansas, so the Orioles might have to pay up a little bit to get Biller in this spot, but he boasts a 4-pitch mix that includes a fastball that goes into the upper 90s. They follow that up with Braden Sloan, a left-handed reliever out of TCU. In the 17th round, Sloan is coming off a season in which he fanned 76 batters over 58 innings of relief work. In the 18th round, the Orioles took Cole Johnson, an outfielder out of Oconee County High School in Georgia. 6'2" left-hander is committed to Georgia, noted for his good bat-to-ball skills. And then in the 19th round, out of Heartland Community College in Illinois, the Orioles selected shortstop Jimmy Anderson. Anderson hit .429 with 10 homers, 18 doubles, with 31 walks to 12 strikeouts this past season. He's followed that up with very good numbers in the Summer Collegiate Northwoods League, including a .340 average and 18 walks to 12 strikeouts. The final pick of the draft, or this draft class for the Orioles, was right-hander Connor Gear out of Meridian Community College in Mississippi. Gear this past season struck out 83 batters in 62 innings pitched. So some JUCO pitchers with very good strikeout numbers this past year. Anderson, I think they have a guy with a pretty interesting athletic profile coming out of community college. And then Johnson, again, this might be a situation where you have to pay up a little bit to get him out of a commitment to Georgia, but kind of a promising skill set there with some room for physical projection.
Yeah, wait, who'd you say? I blanked out that last second.
Cole Johnson was the last player I mentioned.
There we go. Yeah, Cole Johnson, I feel like is going to be the toughest sign. I think that's the one guy who I could see. Was he maybe the all right? We're gonna a draft and follow type pick here. If the money works out and we've got it, we're gonna be aggressive with you. But if not, unfortunately, like we're not gonna be able to sign him. I don't know. Again, a lot of praise for the hit tool, SEC commit. I feel like the Georgia thing is going to make it tough for me with Cole Johnson. We'll see there. I really like Braden Sloan a lot out of TCU in this range. 17th round pick, but he's a 6'4" lefty. He's got 3 years of experience at TCU. Started as a starter, and then gradually was more and more in a bullpen role. But it was all relief appearances this year at TCU, 58 innings. So he averaged more than 3 innings per appearance. 76 strikeouts, 30% strikeout rate, 197 average against. The changeup is truly an elite pitch. It's his most used pitch. He had generated a 54% whiff rate on the changeup alone. Fastball only tops out at 91. It sits in like the high 80s. He's got a curveball as well. But the changeup, like a 54% whiff rate when that's your most used pitch against really good competition all year, 20 inches of run on the pitch. I fully think that the Orioles are going to plan to use him as a starter because it's a really funky, tall, left-handed look. It's a lot like Joseph DeJurwa, except I think a little bit more awkward of a look, a little bit of a tougher look for lefties. And if that changeup works so well against righties and lefties already, you could add a couple ticks to the fastball, tighten up the command a little bit. For round dependent, I'm not talking about like total upside. There are other picks that have way more upside, I think. But when you compare 17th round pick and what you could get out of him, I really like this Braden Sloan pick as a potential to really hit and get a ton of value here as far as the late rounds concerned, just because you're talking about a 17th round draft pick. And what if he is a starter for you as he works up the ranks? So I think that's going to be an interesting kind of case study to follow here once he signs and gets into the system.
Yeah, I was going to say, once you started talking about him, I was going to be like, guess what he's going to do in this organization? He's going to start games or at least get the bulk innings like a lot of guys have, like we talked about earlier. Yeah, I like that pick a lot. And I agree, Cole Johnson, if there's going to be a guy that doesn't sign, I think it's going to be him. But I do like that they took him because, hey, if something happens with somebody else, he's there and maybe they can anyway. Biller. We're going to talk about him more, but again, just big arm. If you can get him to forego his Arkansas commitment, which I expect that we will, I think that's good. I had received some information, kind of like a little tip on Gear. The 20th round pick is that basically the Orioles found might be a Nestor Herman situation where he was like not on any other team's board, so they just waited to take him because they knew he would be available, but they like him a lot of talent there. I think they might have found a gem. And Jimmy Anderson, like just great name, big league name. Jimmy Anderson rolls off the tongue, just like Jerwa. And I mean, again, just another community college, semi high school kind of guy here. And I like the risk on that.
I'm glad you brought that up about Gear, the 20th rounder, because I have not a single thing on him. And I have tried to find anything, and it makes me sad because 20th round picks are my draft crushes. Evan Yates, Reese Sharp. Trenton Craig really wasn't my guy, but I was bought in on the eventual breakthrough. I think he was always my who's gonna be the rebound this year? It was always Trenton Craig for me. I fall in love with these 20th round picks, and this Gear guy, I got absolutely nothing on him except like 2 years ago he was throwing in the 80s, but he struck out a lot of guys this year. So good to know that the Orioles got a little potential hidden gem here in the 20th round.
Yeah, Dave Jennings found him, and
then there's
that man pick again. Dave Jennings, he's a good one.
And of course, we'll have more coverage on these players as they hopefully sign with the Orioles and enter pro ball. But now we're going to go into our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridley Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre or post game drink. And while you're at the ballpark this year, to be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate, where you can find one of Checker Spot's signature beers. The Bird is the word. And now for our last call question of the night. Who is an under the radar pick that we think enters the system with considerable upside? We profiled a lot of players on tonight's show, but we want to take a moment here for each of us to highlight a guy that we think deserves your attention and that you shouldn't look just at where they were picked in the draft to consider their prospect stock, because there could be real upside with these players. So Nick, I'm going to start with you here. I actually don't even know your pick, so I'm curious to see who it is.
Did I not write it? I didn't write it down. Okay. Well, my pick is the 19th rounder, Jimmy Anderson. So I kept quiet on that one. Jimmy Anderson, not on Joe Doyle's top 615, not on Baseball America's top 500 list. But as you touched on there, he is a 6'1" right-handed hitting shortstop. He is 19 years old, out of the, of course, JUCO ranks. 439 average, 10 home runs, 18 doubles, 31 walks to 12 strikeouts at community college or junior college. Like, those are JUCO numbers. I get it. But you talked about how he was in the North Woods League showcasing well. Remember, that is a wooden bat summer league playing against much better college competition. And he's hitting 340 with 4 home runs, 18 walks to 12 strikeouts. I like the swing. I think there's some physical projection left, good bat speed. Looks like he gets to the pull side power pretty easily. I'm really into this pick. And right after we got on, actually, someone just responded and let me know that I think I know why the Orioles drafted Jimmy Anderson here. Jimmy Anderson was teammates with a guy named Nate George last year. So
let's go.
Give me the Jimmy Anderson, Nate George connection. Let's reunite them here and get him into the organization.
Absolutely love that little tidbit there. My guy is Cam Lee, the Mineral Area College, as everybody knows, very, very famous college. JUCO ranks signing or not signing, draft pick out in the 9th round. Talked about how Joe Doyle was all over him. This is the guy that, here's the tweet. This was after Cam Smith. The Orioles are absolutely crushing the sub D1 ranks in this class. So many interesting prospects without name recognition. Folks will learn soon, I'm sure. Cam Lee out of Mineral Area College was really buzzy late. And then he had him at number 307 on his rankings. A bit of a hidden gem, center fielder Cam Lee caught the attention of scouts in the Midwestern part of the country this season, dominating the junior college ranks. A 444 hitter with 13 jacks. Lee has some bat speed to his name and the bat-to-ball skills to hit his way up the developmental ladder. It's quick hands, tight turns at the plate, wiry strength and feel for the pull side, at least at the junior college level. Some crudeness in Lee's swing with moving parts and variation of his swing depending on the day. He'll mix up different leg lifts, and weight transfer will differ from night to night. The pure athlete in him allows the quirkiness to work for right now. He's a plus runner who takes hard, aggressive, full-effort routes to the baseball in center field. Plays like a scat back with sporadic reactions, cuts, and the occasional inefficient route to the spot. Still young, Lee shows the traits necessary to play center field at the next level, so long as his comfortability continues to improve with more and more reps. Last sentence here, I think, paragraph. Just 19 years old, Lee is draft eligible for the 2nd year in a row. A big year at the junior college ranks. Has his name circled by scouts, but he'll have the ability to play D1 baseball in 2027 if he elects to go that route. Late round hidden gem, but if signable, he'll likely have teams lined up. So sounds good to me.
Those were both good picks. I'm going to go with Denton Biller for mine. Biller had a very good season this year at the JUCO ranks, and that was coming off of a summer in which he was named to the All Mink League first team. Now, those who don't know, the Mink League is a summer collegiate league out kind of in the Midwest, upper Midwest part of the country. So not a ton of info on that. But one thing I find interesting is that Biller has been in the MLB Draft League this year pitching for Williamsport. And the Orioles have gone to the Draft League a lot in the last few years. Christian Rodriguez, Matthew Etzel are among some of the names that have come out of that league. And one of the reasons that I think that they've been able to go there probably is because they can get good data on these guys that is not publicly available. But from what we know of Biller so far, good strikeout numbers, 69 batters and 64 innings pitched this year. A fastball that is in the upper 90s and to go along as part of a 4-pitch mix. That Arkansas commitment is going to be an interesting part of this equation because it does feel like the Orioles are going to have to pay up a little bit to get him. But based on the fact that he is in the draft league now, he's put up pretty solid numbers there over a small sample size. This is someone I think that the Orioles have probably had their eye on for a while, and I would expect that he's going to be a priority to sign.
I like it. I have seen that the Orioles have already signed a undrafted free agent or two. Nebraska transfer pitcher J.D. Hennon has signed with the Orioles. And then someone in the comments earlier said, sorry, 1 second. Where did it go? Did it disappear? No, here it is. Apparently an undrafted prep shortstop, Joe Philip Guzman. So haven't confirmed that since we've been on the air, but sounds interesting to me.
I haven't seen that one, but I do see the J.D. Hennon out of Augustana, a D2 school. 5-pitch mix, fastball up to 97 miles per hour. Again, JUCO kid, fastball, 97, 98. Wash, rinse, repeat, bring in another one.
Yeah, some of them have to stay healthy enough to come up the ranks, right?
Now, real quick, just because I think that we want to bring this up before we sign off. The watchability rating on the first game in which Nate George and Jimmy Anderson are on the same team in the Orioles farm system on a scale of 1 to 10 is going to be blank.
A million.
80, I was going to say 88. 1 million's a lot better.
I mean, you see how Nate George plays every night of the week. Imagine if his former teammate is there on the field with him. I feel like the energy level is going to be off the charts.
Just throw in Lil Slay and Lil Ray and let's call it a day.
I mean, this is definitely how they found Anderson. They scouted Nate George, they liked him, and they saw Anderson, and they said, "Oh, you're eligible next year.
Interesting.
We got you."
Yeah.
Or he was probably eligible. He would have been eligible last year too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And they were like, "No one knows who you are, so we're going to hold off and take you next year." Bam, here you go. Because, like I said, he wasn't even on Joe Doyle's top 615 prospects. So just, yeah, where you're finding these guys, this is what makes baseball so beautiful. It doesn't matter where you play, at what level, anywhere in this country, somebody's going to find you at this point, and you will get a shot, I feel like.
And this is with only 20 rounds. I mean,
yeah.
Just imagine what this Orioles scouting department could have done with 40.
Yeah, and everyone thought that this was the element of the draft that was disappearing when you went from 40 to 20, but I feel like if anything, you're seeing more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, honestly, the guys that are kind of getting the shaft on that end is probably the guys that are, we talked about, the senior signs, they could just, top out at like AA, AAA depth. They went to college, they're 4-year seniors. I don't know. They might have to find a different line of work if they can't get signed undrafted.
And for that does it for this week. So we will be back next week to break down all the latest news in Birdland, which hopefully will include a few signings from this draft class. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We are also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community today. You can join at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list, access to patron-only channels in our Discord, and so much more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.